Answers don't make you enlightened, and they don't make you not enlightened. Those were Charles Berner's words in his 1977 Enlightenment Master Training course lecture. So if you can't tell by the words that someone uses, how can you tell if someone is enlightened or not? Sometimes there's a participant at an Enlightenment Intensive who is dramatically birthing an enlightenment experience. They may be laughing or crying or screaming. They may be quite eloquent in their verbal expressions and graceful in their physical movements. And sometimes there will be other people in the room that will consciously or unconsciously mimic or try to copy the words or sentiment or even the emotional and physical expressions of that enlightened participant. That is, what that enlightened participant is expressing in their enlightened state. Someone will try to copy it. But a copy is not the original. And the words or emotional expressions of laughter or crying or screaming that someone is going through during an enlightenment process, that is not enlightenment. And no matter how much someone copies the cries or the laughter or the screams, or copies the right words, that too is not enlightenment. The cloning of the manifestations, that is, the expressions and words used to communicate the enlightened state, is not the enlightened state. If that was so, all you'd need to do is read a book or listen to an enlightened individual and copy or put to memory what they said, and you'd get it.
My approach is a no-mind approach.
And though the enlightened state can be birthed while listening to the spoken truth or reading of the truth, the actual direct experience that you become conscious of is sourced from you, not from the other's words. If learning the right answers don't make you enlightened, well, maybe wearing the right clothes can do it. Maybe acting enlightened makes you enlightened. Maybe if I look like Jesus, I can manifest his state of consciousness.
The Son of Man, you're seeing him. It is he that is speaking to you.
If you look at the world around you, you can see lots of pretense. In respect to enlightenment, many people wear what they think are the right clothes, or they maintain an attitude that they think is the enlightened state. Many know the right words to use. They've read the books, they've listened to the gurus, and they've watched videos, just like this one. So, as an enlightenment master of the Enlightenment Intensive, what is one who's helping to midwife the birth of the enlightened state and conscious in others, how can you tell the difference between an actual enlightenment experience and a spiritual experience or a high state of being? Here's an audio clip from a lecture given by Charles Berner at his 1977 Enlightenment Master's Training course.
Can't go by symptoms. Now, there are symptoms that go along with the enlightenment experience, but you can't go by symptoms to determine what is enlightenment. Sometimes there's all kinds of flashy side effects that occur with enlightenment experience. Sometimes there aren't any at all. And you can't go by verbal answers, because anybody can learn the answers. I can give you all the answers in 10 seconds. That doesn't make you enlightened. And it doesn't make them not enlightened. And not knowing the words doesn't mean they haven't had an enlightenment experience. It means they just can't talk about it very well. Then how can you tell? Through no process at all. In other words, the same way that you have an enlightenment experience yourself is how you can tell whether someone else has had an enlightenment experience. So there's no how to it at all. Having a direct experience of another tells you whether they're in a state of direct experience. So the only way you can tell, actually, whether somebody is enlightened or not is having a direct experience of them. There's no other way to be sure about it. In fact, there's no other way to be sure about anything anytime except by enlightenment. Because everything else is just has an element of doubt and an element of certainty in it. It's a difficult skill to teach.
Even though recognizing if another is enlightened may be difficult for you to learn, you can still give successful enlightenment intensives. And by practicing the exercises and the drills that are taught in this course, you'll gradually gain the ability to consciously know enlightenment in yourself and in another. As I've said before, the Enlightenment Intensive format and the Enlightenment Dyad technique is so powerful that even if you can't tell the enlightened state in another, and even if your own enlightenment is uncertain or shallow, you can still conduct successful enlightenment intensives in which participants will have direct conscious knowing of the truth of themselves. That is, they'll get enlightened. That's how effective the Enlightenment Dyad technique is, and how powerful the Enlightenment Intensive schedule and format is. If you persist in your own spiritual and conscious development, beginning right from where you're at, then your state of enlightenment will deepen. Your conscious direct knowing will expand, and your capacity to recognize the truth in others will grow. There are degrees of enlightenment, but there's only one kind. People who take an enlightenment intensive have the same kind of enlightenment that Buddha or Jesus or anyone else has. Though Buddha's enlightenment or the enlightenment that Jesus experienced may have been deeper, and their respective abilities to apply it in their lives were more adept than yours or your participants at an enlightenment intensive, the enlightenment experience is still the same. There is no difference. Water in the Atlantic Ocean is the same as water in the Pacific Ocean. It may be a different temperature. It may be deeper or more shallow in some places than others, but water is water. There is no difference. One of the characteristics of enlightened consciousness is that once you've become conscious of enlightenment, you can never lose it. You may cover it up. You may forget about it by getting lost in the drama of daily life. You may not apply it very well in your life, but as Berner says, the enlightenment experience is never lost under any circumstances. The enlightenment experience is eternal and independent of time. It's independent of space and independent of all conditions of nature. And the potential to apply it in your life is always there. Enlightenment is your native, inalienable birthright.